did that.
Jan, did you bring those
Certainly.
Are you
No,
Take
no, I ran it single side.
No, you're, that's right, you can have it.
I don't know how I missed it. Probably I missed it. Boy. Well, that shows you. I'm not a master of mechanical devices either.
Me either. I used to take my kids to work so that they could do all my copying and stuff. My girls.
And I can't really start because she's got my, well, we can get started on at least 53. Yeah, I probably messed up. Can't blame the machine for my mistake. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll just, we'll wing it until Sparrow gets back. We'll start with 53, everybody's got 53. Okay,
Is it surrender?
ah,
I'm wondering if this is about surrender.
no,
Okay.
depends on what you call surrender. Non-resistance is not surrender, it's just another way of exacting revenge.
Oh.
Okay, for the student, we know the importance of recognizing his own worth as a channel for the expression of universal mind, along with the importance of holding himself in such high esteem as to enable his highest qualities to come into manifestation. We have devoted several lessons to this phase of self-unfoldment, following them with the lesson on controlling the emotions in order to maintain a proper balance at all times, and now we come to the law of non-resistance. The Christian world bases its teachings along this line on the precepts and example of the master teacher Jesus. But the teachings of Jesus in regard to non-resistance have been presented in such a way as to be misleading. And while there has been much theorizing and sentimentalizing regarding the law of non-resistance, the law as generally interpreted is not practical. It will not work. When we refer to non-resistance, it is usually believed to mean that one is to accept whatever injustice may be visited upon him by another without putting forth any effort to help himself. For illustration, if you own a piece of property and some seemingly unscrupulous person sees an opportunity to defraud you and take that property away from you, according to the law of non-resistance, as commonly understood, you are to sit by and allow that person to have his way without making any effort to keep what is rightfully yours. But this is not the truth involved in this law. You should protect yourself and prevent anyone from taking that which belongs to you. You no more have the right to let another take from you what is yours than you have to take for yourself what belongs to another. Through the development and unfoldment of your life, you have attracted certain possessions to you. These are good and are to be used by you in the further unfoldment and development of your life. And when Sparrow gets back, we'll continue with that. Yeah, I always found that, you know, if somebody's reaching for something in mine, you want to pull back a nub,
Yeah.
but then that's nonviolent.
As long as you don't do it, it's not
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Or you just say, I think you should really think about what you're about to do.
I know someone used to say that.
Was it scary?
I knew you'd get back at you no matter what.
Yeah.
See, that's why I found what's effective is to get a very measured voice, very measured pace, look them square in the eye and say, you know, you could be making a grave mistake here.
Yeah, that way they can't mistake that you're just having a histrionic moment. You're dead serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I get a little vocal, there's not, you know, they're really in safe territory, kind of. But when I get a measured pace in my voice and make a statement of absolute, you may regret this.
Yeah. I'd be scared.
Makes them stop and think.
I'd stop and
Yeah.
think, that's for sure.
Whereas if you said something more, what do you call it, provocative or something, it might cause them to react. But by
Well-
saying that, it causes them.
Well,
to think.
yeah, it's like saying, and this is just, you know, just a comment until Sparrow gets back. But I have looked someone in the eye and say, look, you know, there's a difference between you and I. You care about whether you live or die. I don't. And what that means is, the more aggressive my assault is, the more you will channel your energy from assault to defense. And ultimately, since I'm not concerned about defending myself, I can put all my energy into what I'm doing, and I will beat you.
You put your one or the other.
Yeah, you know, I have nothing to lose. I have no fear of loss of life. I understand there's much more to it, and actually, you'd be doing me a favor. But unless, you know, you share the philosophy of, you know, this is going to be resolved absolutely, one way or another, absolutely, so that it never happens again. You better think about what you want to do. Thank you, sweetie.
Yeah, no trouble.
He goes from threatening.
It's transitional.
That's right.
Okay, that's,
You gotta be able to.
yeah. Okay. 54, 56, and 57. Okay. All right, now that we sort of have a semblance of order here, we'll continue on. In justice to yourself, you cannot permit someone else to take them from you. If you do not allow yourself to be robbed of them, you will soon be without the power to attract other desirable conditions. What then do we mean when we talk about the law of non-resistance and advocate it in our teachings? What did Jesus mean when he said, "And I say unto you, that ye resist not evil"? Resistance of evil is a state of consciousness or feelings. Then we are not to resist evil in our feelings or consciousness. In the last lesson, we stated that the feelings were the most important factor in one's life. And now we must say that in one's feelings, there must be no element of resistance. We may take whatever steps are necessary to protect that which belongs to us, but must not harbor a feeling of hatred or even dislike for the party who is trying to injure us. In fact, one may develop to the point where he is able to love that one and yet stand firm and adamant for his own rights. Let us use a concrete example. Mr. Smith owns a piece of land. He has worked hard and saved carefully for a number of years in order that he might purchase this land and establish his home upon it. Unknown to Mr. Smith, at the time of the transfer there was a flaw in the title to the land, and after some years his neighbor, Mr. Jones, discovers that he has some slight claim through some distant relative to the land now owned and occupied by Mr. Smith. The claim of Mr. Jones is not a just one, but on account of the title not being entirely clear, there is a chance that he may be able to get some kind of a settlement out of Mr. Smith. So he sets about to bring matters to such a point as to get a reaction out of his neighbor. The question immediately arises as to what should be Mr. Smith's attitude in the matter. matter. He is a man of lofty ideals and is trying to unfold his higher qualities and let the divine express through him. He believes in and tries to practice the law of non-resistance. Very well. Then shall he decide that since Mr. Jones wants his property, he must be resigned and allow him to take it, leaving him and his family deprived of their home and left to begin all over again? No thinking person would expect him to do such a thing, and if he did pursue such a line of conduct, he would forfeit the respect and high regard of his friends and neighbors. The thing for him to do is to take the proper steps at once to protect his property. If need be, he should hire the best lawyer available and take the matter into court to prove the legality and justice of his position. But where does the principle of non-resistance come in? In taking the above action, has he sacrificed his finer feelings in the matter? Not necessarily so. And only so to the extent that he has allowed his feelings against Mr. Jones to be aroused into a state of worry, anger, and hatred. It is possible for one caught in such a situation to have so much control of their feelings or consciousness as to come through an experience of that kind much stronger and finer in every way than before. If from the very beginning, while recognizing his rights in the matter and the wrong position of his neighbor, he's able to look at it as an experience that is coming to him at that particular time for his own unfoldment, seeing it only good for all concerned, he will be able to maintain his consciousness of peace and harmony. Instead of being aroused into a feeling of hatred for Mr. Jones, he becomes quiet and relaxed. Then he talks to Mr. Jones as though he were present, saying something like, "Mr. Jones, you are my friend and wish only good to come to me. To carry out your present purpose would injure me and react destructively upon yourself. Therefore you will see the right way and walk in it. If you persist in trying to take what is not yours, you will have to learn your lesson." Then he goes calmly on, making preparations to defend his rights. He is pursuing the right course in protecting himself, and if he can maintain a consciousness of peace and goodwill through it all, he will be fulfilling the law of non-resistance. This is not the usual procedure. Ordinarily, when one realizes that another is attempting to do him harm, the feelings are aroused before any analysis of the situation can be made or any calm deliberation given to the matter. And so one is carried along by the impetus of commit rash deeds that his better judgment would condemn. As stated elsewhere in these lessons, the feelings are the most important factor in man, but they must be controlled and guided or they will continually get him into trouble. Therefore, we must practice in our feelings or consciousness the law of non-resistance at all times. The application of this principle is not restricted to experience where we must defend our rights. We can apply it to our everyday life. We are constantly resisting evil in one way or another. We may not like a certain piece of work that we must do, so in our feelings we set up a resistance. In other words, we worry about it and think of it with a feeling of displeasure. This discordant feeling regarding the work does not relieve us of the necessity of performing it, but it robs our activity of the beneficial results we would obtain by doing it gladly, willingly, and joyously. We need to practice the law of non-resistance toward every task which we must perform. Does that make any sense to everybody?
Yes.
I was just trying to think how to gladly, willingly, and joyfully do laundry, but I'll get there.
We may be in a hurry, yet the plane, bus, or train is behind schedule, so we begin to fret and worry. We are then resisting evil, but there are a number of things we might do in such a situation to counteract this discordant feeling, resulting in good for ourselves and others. One may smile and say to himself that he does not care if he is late, that it is not his fault, and he is not going to let it make him unhappy. This will prevent the occasion from reacting harmfully toward him. Usually there is something of interest to see if one is not too busy fretting about the delay. Something to read is a good antidote for worry on an occasion of this kind, and one always has the resource of thinking. what a contribution might be made to the world if all people use their spare moments, those they now spend in worry and irritation, in constructive thinking. Many people would be surprised at the complete change in environment and affairs such a practice as described above would bring about. A bank fails and 2 men lose their life savings. Both are in practically the same circumstances, and the loss is a severe blow. Though nothing can be done about it, one man refuses to accept the inevitable and broods over his loss. The other feels it is just as keenly, but he realizes that nothing can be done to change matters, so he at once decides to make the best of a bad situation. The second man's attitude toward his loss, which is one of non-resistance, enables him to keep hold of himself. His powers are not wasted in worry, self-accusation, or hatred toward those responsible for his trouble. This tranquil, harmonious consciousness gives him a better chance to recoup his loss, and in any event robs his misfortune of his power to harm him. For example, in present day in Spain, I think it is, the government has announced that all depositors in the national banks will lose about 50% of their assets. The economy is in such bad shape, the government has decided that the rich people have too much, and the banks have said, we're taking about 50% of it from you.
Isn't that what they do in Greece too?
Yeah, yeah. So imagine if you're a millionaire or something, you're almost a pauper overnight,
Yeah.
and it's not making people happy. Okay, Miss Nikki, we'll miss you.
Oh, thank you. Somebody throw cookies at her.
Yeah, throw a cookie to her. Okay, moving on. Anything we allow to worry us, allow to make us uneasy or unhappy, we are resisting in thought. Some people resist the weather, the people with whom they associate, their business, the house in which they live, and in fact, almost everything with which they come in contact. Many a case of nervous breakdown could be traced to the practice of resistance in the consciousness. If you have followed this through carefully, you will understand that the whole problem is a matter of feeling or consciousness within ourselves. The principle of non-resistance is not a matter of allowing others to take from us what belongs to us without a protest on our part. Neither is it a matter of permitting physical violence to be visited upon us without raising a hand to protect ourselves. Is the first, last, and all the time a matter of consciousness or feeling? It is the attitude we take in any particular matter that determines its effect upon us. And so long as we maintain a calm, peaceful consciousness, there will be no friction or trouble in our lives. People may be trying to make trouble for us, and it may be in the air about us, but if our feelings are unruffled and we do not recognize it as trouble, then it does not exist for us. We speak of resisting evil, but as metaphysicians we know that in reality there is no such thing as evil, all is good. And when we realize this truth, then we know that everything that comes to us, regardless of its appearances, is for our good. It is a step in the right direction when we can, in the midst of a trying experience, say, yes, I know this experience through which I am passing is for my development. Only good is coming out of it. That's going to be a hard one to do.
Oh, yeah, I've been there, done that.
And we're still doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Such recognition of this truth will help in the development of consciousness of non-resistance to the experience itself. Do not be discouraged if you do not attain perfection in the practice of this principle immediately. Self-unfoldment is a slow process, and if we can see a little gain as the days and weeks pass by, finding ourselves further along at the end of the year than at its beginning, we should be grateful for the degree of truth we have realized and determined to persevere in the future. All of the previous lessons have been of a nature to help develop in you a consciousness of non-resistance. The statements of truth, if committed to memory and kept in mind for any emergency, are splendid antidotes for all kinds of discordant thoughts and feelings. Repeat them when difficulties arise and you feel like going all to pieces, and you will soon find yourself cooling down. Add to the statements of the lesson 10, all is good, and try to realize that all is good. Of course, read each lesson over for the next 7 days, and then practice the law of non-resistance, and repeat the affirmations below. I am peaceful. I have the power to think. I am in quiet meditation. I am contacting my good now. I am powerful. I am my own authority. I am an expression of the divine. The solution of my problem is an infinite mind. I am myself. I control my emotions. All is good.
I think this is going to take a little bit more practice in accomplishing.
Oh, yeah. Emotions, I mean, if you spend your whole life living in an emotional world, and it's so ingrained in our natures that it is, it's probably one of the most difficult things to get control of. Because, emotions come out, especially during unguarded moments.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
When my car blew, my engine, I put thousands of dollars into my car, the engine blew. Lost my storage unit, everything I owned. Well, somewhat. And then I lost the house. It was like, what else could I lose? I mean, but the next day when I let go on the stage, it was finally, it's over and done with. I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah.
And when I was done going to court, and when I I got to see the house, I knew who bought it. I got to see the house when they remodeled it. It's gorgeous, and tears ran down my eyes, and I said, okay, Mom, and big boys upstairs, like St. Germain and all that, please let them find a family that will be loving in this house
Right.
that we had for 40 years. My brother was only 2 when he lived there, went there. And it wasn't, the house was on the market for 1 day, sold. And I told Missy who bought it, she goes, oh, Mom, that's Jill Radner. I went to school with her since 8th grade. Her and her husband, 2 little kids bought it. So then that's when I knew it was over and done with. It's not mine, I don't have nothing. Something I learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what I was fighting was that because it was ours, and the state was taking it away.
Right. And in a not pleasant fashion.
Yeah.
Hard way.
So, oh yes, I've been in my apartment for a year now, and
Do you still eat eggs?
we're peaceful. And,
Because Janelle.
Well, it's like this, like to say, you win some, you lose some. Me, I would just be happy to break even once in a while.
yeah,
And you like your apartment?
it's just a one little bedroom,
Yeah.
3 blocks from here. It's really easy to get to.
See, when Sparrow and I met in Boulder, I had a 1-bedroom apartment, and the bedroom was devoid of all furniture except a pyramid, a framed pyramid in the center of the room, which some friends of mine built for me. They had asked of me a favor. They had a friend who was in the hospital in critical condition and was not expected to live through the night. She had congestion around her heart. She was at death's door, and I did a thing for her in this room that's set aside for nothing but mysticism and metaphysics, and it was almost an all-night thing, channeling energy to her. But anyway, the next morning when the doctors went in, she was up getting dressed, and we walked out of the hospital just like nothing was wrong with her. I was wasted for about 4 days because I didn't know how much energy I was putting out. But anyway, the room, for gratitude, they built me a framed pyramid, 10 feet on the base, So I lived in this room, and I thought that was only appropriate that the room be appropriately decorated. So I transcribed in India ink the entire Egyptian Book of the Dead and taped it on the walls all the way around the room.
Wow.
Yeah, floor to ceiling, all four walls, even over the closet. And I had some students came over one time from the University of Houston, and they were interested in metaphysics and esoterics and pyramids. So I took them into the back room, and I had it lit with a black light. And when everybody was in there, I said, now you all just watch. And the pyramid was oriented such that under black light you could see the energy field forming around it. Just literally formed sides to the pyramid itself. And it was just sort of a hazy, faint blue light, and just energy. And so we were in there and they were asking questions and all of this. And finally I said, well, I think it's about time we take a little break. How long do you think we've been in here? And they said, well, about 15, 20 minutes. And I said, we've been in here almost 4 hours. Because time was no longer relevant in that pyramid. So, it was a great experience for them. And I missed the pyramid, but I missed the room too. But it was imagine just walking into an Egyptian tomb and just wall to wall, floor to ceiling hieroglyphics. I don't remember how many months it took me to transcribe it because I had to do it.
You did it by hand.
I did it by hand, yeah, and I made a template of all the various Egyptian characterizations, all the characters and symbols and all of that, and then I transcribed those on papyrus paper, like you get in the store. I had rolls of it, and I would trace out the characters and then fill them in with the India black ink, and it was a long, meticulous process. It kept me out of a lot of trouble, probably.
Are you from Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you don't have any accent, the accent at all, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's taken a good number of years to get to put that in seclusion.
Seclusion.
But amongst others, the drawl comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, amongst
Oh,
other
yeah.
Texans.
And you know what they say, you can always tell a Texan, but you can't tell them much.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Yeah, but I do have a very pronounced drawl. And when I let it come out, it's, there's no question about the origin of it.
But you're from here, right? You're
I'm from Colorado,
Colorado.
Yeah.
Denver, born and raised.
Huh.
And she still puts up with me.
But you don't really have any type, you just have good voice. You don't have any, I can't tell from where you're from.
Yeah, it's hard to.
That's
hard to
people when I would do some things, people would say they knew I was from the Midwest because I didn't have an accent.
Yeah.
So in a way, it kind
Yeah,
of places
okay, so
you
it is,
in
yeah.
a sense, yeah, because you don't have one. Well, and they'd listen and say if I would say Coke or soda, because that would give them a hint.
Yeah, there's
Uh-huh.
certain words.
Yeah.
Yeah, certain words,
Certain
yeah.
words.
Certain diction.
Seeing in my instance, I made it a useful tool to morph into whatever the environment is that I'm operating under, to make people comfortable. Because I used to, for a good number of years, even before I met Sparrow, I did counseling, and people would say, I've told you things I haven't even told my dearest friend this. I make you comfortable, and that's what I do. I make myself familiar to you.
You really do, yeah.
And I think anybody that does counseling, y'all probably do the same thing. Because to be able to get to where you can help someone,
Yeah.
they have to be able to have a trust in you. And so if you make yourself comfortable to them or familiar to them, then they open up, and then you can help them. So it's a useful tool, it's a useful practice.
Yeah, because then they think if you can relate, you'll understand or understand what they're saying.
Well, it's like, I think it even gets more, it gets beyond that, because it's like, you know, you become someone that they know. You know, you get into the subconsciousness, the subconscious mind, and you present the energy of being someone very familiar to them. You know, and in such a fashion that they lower their defenses and they just, you know, they just pour their hearts out for you. Something they wouldn't do with family or somebody else. They just, you know, they just feel that comfortable that they can do that. And that's part of it, you know, it's like, you know, well, that's what we do. We make people comfortable with what we are and what we do.
Well, when you teach, that also works the same exact way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any resistance to what you're telling us because of the way you present it.
Well, this is good material. I've always considered it good material. And I found it practical. And, I mean, there are some, I mean, you know, like, there are some texts that you could read volumes and volumes and get absolutely nothing out of it. And if you're not getting anything out of it, why are you wasting your time?
It's down to the nitty gritty.
I like the simple language of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not real complicated. You don't have to have high
You
dictionaries.
don't have to pour over it.